the camera. Yeah. Here's the camera. If you forgot,
is that
which I'm sure you would.
the camera
Is
there?
that it there?
Dunk, 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 dunk. Hi guys, welcome back to another Overthrow Disc Golf video. Today we're going to be looking at the man that's been throwing discs very smooth for a very long time and is probably some of y'all's favorite pro out there, Philo. Some of y'all's favorite pro out there. We're going to be looking at the smoothest man in the West. He does live out that way. Philo Brathwaite. So how does this man throw this disc so smooth? Glad you asked. Let's find out together. So we got both the side and the back view. I just want to look one time through. Slow-mo the slow-mo. Ooh, so smooth. He hasn't even done anything yet.
Just make sure he does good, okay?
Yeah, so just in case you guys forgot what that looked like, there it was. This isn't going to be a very long review at all. I'm just going to point out all the things that he does really well. First, you got to point out the squatch bag. I mean, already on the right foot. The first thing I want to look at is we've been talking a lot recently on the channel about, the pump and the pendulum swing. That's something that I'm really growing in appreciation for. Philo's one of those guys. Dave Feldberg's one of those guys where it's just this nice boom up. It kind of swings this way. You have this swing, and then you're going to have a swing back. You see that? Swing back. And it just kind of builds this momentum to get this nice swing forward, right? And he ends up going with a little more of like a modern type swing where it's more of like a level pull through here. He still has a little bit of this, like a little bit of what we might call the swoop in here, right? Look at how his arm swings up. This is, Paul does this as well, where they'll start with their arm down low. Ezra does this as well. And then they'll swing it up into the slot up here. And then they'll start going through their forward swing. It's a really nice way to build momentum and feel into the swing. Talked a lot about that with both Ace at Disc Golf and Christine Jennings in our 2 videos previous to this. So if you want really in-depth, go check that out because I walk through the whole thing with both of them. And this is something that I think Seabass and all these guys have been turned on to for a long time. Seabass, Loop Ghost, they're all there. This pendulum swing, and it's nice. And I've been incorporating it in my game. It's just got this nice rhythm to it. Again, that forward, backwards, forward type of feel, right? We are throwing a swing with both the upper and the lower body. So let's take a look at that lower body. See right here, when he pumps this arm forward, this is how I personally have been using the swing, and I think this is how Paul uses the swing as well, or what it visually makes sense to me, is that when this disc pumps forward, you're getting the positive tilt with the shoulders, and it also pulls this hip up, right, into this positive tilt. So we kind of swing that hip up with the disc. So watch this. He's kind of neutral here with the hips. His shoulders a little up already, maybe anticipating the next part. Right, and then watch. Boom, right here, he kind of pulls that and lets that back hip drop, and this upper one pop up with that pump. So I really like that feel. And we're going to drop a video on that in a second. Here, through the X, super tall on this back leg. You see this sometimes where people are really, really tall on this back leg, and what's going to happen is it's going to let him kind of have a big pronounced swing of the body. So imagine his hips being here. Well, you don't have to imagine. I'll draw a line for you there. And then they're going to swing kind of down, and so he'll go whoop down here with the hips. See that as his leg kind of goes forward. Now he's got his hips about here. And again, if we've got that up, down, up motion in the swing, especially in this last step, what do we expect the hips to finish as? Boom. And then he pulls them right back up. Right, and he's a little more level with them, and that last line wasn't really fair in terms of like the angle of the hips, right? He would actually be more like that, where this right hip would be higher, but I'm just saying general feel of the hips. He has this tall leg here, and then you see the guys as they wait for this front leg to land, they kind of get lower. This is similar to how Paul does it as well, where, you know, it's kind of the opposite of Drew. John from Ace of Disc Golf and I were texting, and we were kind of calling this like sliders. You've got two kinds of people. The people that really swing their hips in and load their hips like really far back here, and then they like swing the hip in and up like Drew. And then you got sliders. They're kind of tall here, and then they kind of wait for that leg to fall, and then they kind of keep tension here so they can spring back up. So sliders or springers. These kind of people will usually pivot more on the like front of their foot or like the side of their foot. It's just kind of the pattern that I'm currently seeing with this. Is when people have this nice tall leg here, you can imagine that their foot's kind of sliding this way and they're waiting for it to fall. That's where you hear people like, wait for the front foot to hit, wait for the front foot to hit. Right? This is kind of that form where you wait for the front foot to hit. And then when they do, they resist that hip, and they kind of spring up and put that tension up. And that's how they hit their, they hit their brace. Very similar to Paul's form. So let me show you that. That's Roger Federer. So I'm looking at this last. See, even though Paul is more loaded here, watch how tall he is here. Now he's going to wait for this leg to hit, and you see how he loads down, and now his hips are low. Right, and I'm drawing straight lines so we can see the height difference. I know that the right hip is lower than the left hip here, so be gone, trolls. Right, and so now he's waiting, and he's kind of sliding. He's waiting for this foot to hit, and then he's going to keep his leg kind of tight and bent. And he's going to resist that, and then he's going to spring up, and now his hips are going to finish up at this high level. So that's a springer or a slider. I don't have a term for him yet, so I'm obviously not settled on one. I'm going to call him a springer because that front leg's very springy. But put your vote in the comments down below. Man, what a good YouTuber I am. Just let us know in the comments down below.
Josh.
What your thoughts are. Let us know down below. Like, in case you didn't know, the comments were down below. They're down there. Let us know. Because I'm just genuinely interested in pumping up my algorithm bump. But I actually am searching. You have your chance right now. Okay, who's I looking at? Drew. Drew is not a springer. He's a swinger.
Whoa.
And Simon's more of a springer, by the way. Drew gets these hips turned way back, and he like swings this hip very kind of violently and swings the leg in. And, it all looks smooth, but it's a world of difference between what happens. So right here, he like really, turns this knee back, turns this hip back. And really swings that hip up. So it's like a very down, up, down motion with the hip coming in, but it's like the right hip swing like this. Look how kind of neutral Philo is. He's not like loading the hips like crazy like Drew is. Drew's like, you can almost imagine swinging that right leg back and swinging it forward. Here, Philo's like gliding. What I'm trying to say is that there are two kind of styles that I currently see. If I had to put them in little boxes. This is something that we've talked about. We've talked about on the channel about the front foot, so I should address it. I like heel toe here, personally, because it encourages the hips to be up and open at this point. He's able to get it up, and again, he's kind of springy on it here. And I guess with springers, this is just me thinking out loud now, it makes sense for them to have more of a closed foot like this. Right. This is a little more closed even than Paul's. See, I do wonder at this point what would happen. You see how he's already turned his hips away here? The key is not just the foot, right? I use the foot because it's easy for people to look at, but it's to look at just where the hip and the knee and all the joints and all that face. Right, so the upper body, very, very similar with these two. Some style point differences, but you see that both the hips are up here. Simon's got a little bit more open. Just a little more open here. Now people talk about, your hips and all that. Your insides, Philo's insides are going to look different than Simon's insides. They're all going to look a little bit different. But I do wonder about where he closes his hips. It's about the same. I mean, look at the eyes. Look at where the head's facing. Let's just break it down piece by piece. They're both kind of facing this way. At this point, shoulders coiled back. Shoulders coiled back. The difference being that his arm's straight. Philo's arm is straight, which is a totally acceptable style, obviously. Simon's is bent here, but the shoulders are coiled all the same. It's pretty sick how similar they are, even though you wouldn't picture them as being so similar. Look at that. It's cool, man. Oh yeah, let's get here. Boom. Not too different. You see the shoulders are closed off here. Both guys. Starting to break out of that 90-degree box here because the hand and shoulders starting to move ahead. This whole unit right here starting to move ahead of the chest, starting to break away and accelerate past that. So things working in the kinetic chain like we want them to. Boom. It's really not too different. I mean, we knew that because Philo throws super smooth. It's offhand, helping to keep this left shoulder back and moving away to help keep the shoulders closed so that their shoulders aren't just moving along with the disc like up here. Like that would be bad. A lot of amateurs do that. They just continue to rotate. Boom. At the release. Look at that. Posted it up behind the foot. Foot. Hip. Head. Foot. Hip. Head. This kind of reverse C shape. But as much as I love Simon, I need to show more Philo. Because this is his deal right here. Look at this right here. This is an interesting thing. Look at how that disc is warped. He is putting the mash on it right there. That is interesting. That's interesting because to lock his grip in place like where it's at, like for the nose angle, I guess it makes sense. This is one thing that I wondered with Philo was with his grip that we saw. It's not a grip that's really, it's called the fork grip, I think, where you just like hold the thing like a fork. You just like grip it that way. Where's the disc when I need it? So he's using this like fork grip where there's, most of the pressure's here. And he like puts that thing in there so he gets his nose angle down. So he's got good nose angle control, but there's no like pivot point up here. His index finger's not doing very much. And so it's good for his nose angle. And he's using that thumb to push that nose angle down even more. But I think he would get more distance if he used a front-loaded grip. Like, think about every shot that Philo throws on the backhand. It's all super controlled. And it makes sense with his grip. And we're looking at his form, and it's like, what in the world's wrong with his form, that he can't throw far? And this is not a small dude. How tall is Philo, Mikey?
I don't know, 6'3".
6'3". I mean, I just know he's in that 6 foot category. He's up there. And it's like his form's basically immaculate. His form's super efficient. And that's the thing, is he's built his game off of being very, very efficient. But I wonder what would happen if we got him with like a front-loaded grip and just let loose. Because the guy's throwing over 400 for sure. Probably got 450 on, golf shots. I caddied for him all of not all of Jonesboro, but 2 rounds of Jonesboro. And so he was keeping up with most of the guys, on the cards that he was playing. And so I bet you he could pop out a 450. For sure over 400. But I bet you he can get 450 on a golf line. And he's not slow. And he said that he had mentioned that. He's like, I've always been pretty quick guy. And like, you can see it. He's super smooth. His form is there's not a bunch of extra movement in it. It's just you got these kind of natural swings. It's kind of like how I'm trying to build my form almost. It's like very simple, very methodical, very clean. And his body does have the explosiveness, obviously. I just really am curious about what would happen if we could get this guy on a front-loaded grip, how far he'd be able to throw. He would give up accuracy, of course, but on some of those other courses, I think, especially on Jonesboro, there was times where like just having an extra 50 feet would have put him in a much better spot. And it's just the bomber courses, right? And the guys that are winning Jonesboro are the people who can get that, 500 foot shot. If you can throw a couple 500-foot shots, you're getting birdie looks a lot. And they're just, if you don't have that distance at Jonesboro, it's really hard for you to have. There are only a couple holes that you get birdie looks on. You have to play basically perfect. If you had 450 golf line at Jonesboro, you could probably shoot 4 or 5 down if you played perfect. You think, Mikey?
Yes.
And then there's a difference there. We know this guy's got smooth form. We know this guy's got the acceleration. He's just got a light grip that puts control. But yeah, this is the form that we all want, though. Swing, swing, swing with the upper body. Up with the hips. Down and back with the hips. Up with the hips. So clean. I don't have much to say. He's a great person to mimic form from. It's got the necessary parts and none extra. Maybe perhaps my favorite form to look at, for people always ask me, what's your, who has the best form? And I'm like, dude, I'm wearing so many hats when you ask me that question. But I like Drew a lot because it's so simple. And I like to watch Simon because it's so smooth. Everything's smooth. Drew's ripping through with the legs, but I like, it's good to see for teaching. Philo is like, he's like the kind of the best of both worlds when it comes to teaching. He's very simple. Like everything's easy to see with Philo. He's so smooth on top of it. So it's like it's just a form that you feel like, man, I can get there. Like I can do that. And for me as a coach, it's like, wow, this is ideal. This is a great, great person to watch for your form. And he's, done this at this level for longer than most. I mean, think about it. 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds coming in, they don't even have to have great form. They could just like outthrow you with raw power. And it's like, but he's still competing despite being a little older. If this was tennis, he'd be retired already. It's just a brutal reality of sports. But since his form is so clean and so healthy, he's been able to, do this for longer than most people. This has got everything, I think, that I want for our viewers, for our subscribers. It's like, if every one of my form reviews, they had form like this, I'd be like, perfect. Just front load your grip for more distance. And then, let's see what happens. Cool. That's going to do it for Philo's form review, guys. I know a lot of you wanted to see that. I wanted to see it too. And it just confirmed everything that I thought. He does all right.